Transcription number 34. 5 seconds. Start. Mr. Vice Chairman, sir, I would like to speak on this bill in the interest of the rapid economic growth in the country. If the nation grows from strength to strength economically, leading to eradication of the degrading and disheartening poverty of the people of India, the workers of this nation would also benefit and they would also go above the poverty line. Sir, I would like to mention here that the plantation crops as understood by the term so far, namely coffee, rubber, tea and cardamom, have been giving this nation substantial amount of the much coveted foreign exchange annually. It must be noted that coffee exports alone have given our country during the last 5 years over rupees 1,000 crores in foreign exchange by way of export earning and export duties. I must also bring to the attention of this House that the famed tea industry in India today has become a sick industry affecting lakhs of workers and the tea planters. Sir, we ought to know that in the agricultural sector, the plantation labor is the best organized one and is getting nearly the same treatment, facilities and amenities like the industrial labor. Sir, coming from a plantation district of Karnataka, I sincerely agree that the welfare measures provided in the Act must be faithfully implemented and strictly enforced. But I cannot subscribe to the view taken by some that the planters generally are exploiters and are inimical to the interests of their own workers and that they must be dealt with severely. Sir, most of the planters of today are educated and they know that contented labor is conducive to productivity and peace in the estates and therefore would like to provide all the welfare measures and amenities to the workers. Sir, I would like to point out some of the very draconian, discriminatory and invidious urban directed amendments made in the Plantations Labor Amendment Bill 2003. Sir, the Plantations Labor Act is sought to be applied now even to holdings of 5 hectares and above, employing 15 persons and more. Originally, in the bill brought before the Joint Committee, it was sought to be applied to holdings of 6.5 hectares and above. It would be realistic to make an amendment to the present bill to raise the size of holdings from 5 hectares to 6.5 hectares. Sir, we must bear in mind the economic viability of small plantations of 5 hectares and the beneficial capacity of the small planters to fulfill the obligations cast on them to provide housing and creche facilities. Those small planters, in some cases, are unable to provide themselves with houses and medical care as good as those intended for their workers in the bill. I am sure that good many small holdings will go into liquidation, unable to bear the burden when the prices fall, as in the case of tea today. I would emphatically say that Clause 13 is not only draconian but discriminatory, and it is most harsh and killing to the farming community of India, whose hands feed and clothe the people, poor and rich. Sir, I strongly feel that the punishment will both compulsorily fine and imprisonment is too severe for violation of a welfare legislation covered by the Act. For economic reasons and financial incapacity, the debt ridden employer, particularly in smallholder, may be unable to discharge the obligations such as providing type design houses, crashes, medical facilities, etc. In such cases, there is no point in sending the landholder to jail and collecting a fine from him for every day of default. The relevant provisions in the bill are made more stringent than the Factories Act, under which, in the case of a further offence, the court is given the discretion to punish the defaulting employer. But in the proposed amendment, the word used is shall instead of may, which makes it mandatory on the court to impose imprisonment as well as fine. These provisions are too harsh and discriminatory, particularly in view of the fact that the bill seeks to bring in farms of 5 hectares, which are in the nature of peasant holdings, under the scope of the Act. Sir, I would like to ask the government of the people, for the people, and by the people, in the name of the farmers of India, why it wants to treat a farmer as a criminal and to be imprisoned for such an offence, while it does not so for a factory owner of a city. By making this comparison, I do not mean that a provision should be made in the relevant Factories Act to make the sentence of imprisonment compulsory for similar offences. Let me make it clear that I am not speaking against the interest of the workers in the plantations. I am only speaking against the stringent and invidious measures which have been provided in the bill affecting the rural employers and the invidious laws enacted for them.